December 21st, 2025 will forever be noted as one of the most emotional days in the history of BTS and ARMY. After a long wait filled with longing, prayer, patience, and tears, BTS is finally back complete as OT7 in a Weverse Live that is not just a live broadcast, but a confession, a promise, and the starting point of something much bigger. As the Weverse screen lit up and one by one those familiar faces appeared, Jin, Suga, JHope, RM, Jimin, V, and Jungkook, armies around the world seemed to hold their breath. Not because they've never seen BTS before, but because this is OT7's first moment truly getting back together after going through the longest and toughest phase of their journey. But the night became even more emotional as Jungkook and V openly talked about BTS's big comeback, not with empty euphoria, but rather with sincerity, maturity, and a burden of responsibility that felt real. OT7 is back, but with a more mature soul. Weverse Live, it doesn't feel like a party. It felt like a family gathering after a long storm. Their smiles are warm, the jokes remain, but their eyes, especially Jungkook and V, hold a deeper story. RM opened the conversation in a calm but meaningful voice, acknowledging that this moment is not just the end of the wait, but also the beginning of a whole new phase of BTS. Jin smiles jokingly as usual. JHope radiates her positive energy. Suga listens more but occasionally slips in honest comments that hit the heart, while Jimin is repeatedly seen holding back his emotions. But when Jungkook started talking, the mood changed. Jungkook. This comeback is not just a comeback. Jungkook, who had been known as the Golden Magne, spoke in a much more mature tone. No pretense, no sweet, contrived sentences. He admitted that during the hiatus, there were many questions that arose in him about the meaning of BTS, about the expectations of the world, and about how to return without betraying ARMY's feelings. This comeback, it's not just that we're appearing again as BTS, Jungkook said slowly. We want to come back as 7 guys who are really ready. The sentence immediately shook the ARMY. Jungkook explained that they didn't want a comeback that was just big in name, but emotionally meaningful. He acknowledged that the pressure as BTS is always overwhelming, and precisely because of that they want to make sure every step forward is done with full awareness. Many of the ARMY cried when Jungkook said that he often thought of the ARMY even in the quietest of times, and that this comeback was a form of responsibility, not obligation. V. We don't want to lose ourselves. If Jungkook speaks with quiet honesty, then V. Taehyung speaks with piercing emotional depth. With a low voice and a serious look, V revealed that during the break, he mused a lot about BTS's identity. We could have come back at any time, V said. But we don't want to go back the wrong way. V confirmed that BTS's big comeback is not about chasing numbers, records, or industry validation. It's about rediscovering what it means to be BTS, 7 people who trust each other, not just the biggest group in the world. He also mentioned that the process of discussion between them is not always easy. There are disagreements, there are doubts, there are fears. But it is precisely from there that they learn that OT7 is not a slogan, but a bond that must be constantly cared for. ARMY felt that sincerity. Throughout Weverse Live, the comments column was filled with emotional messages. Many soldiers admitted that they did not expect BTS's comeback to be discussed in this honest and in-depth way. No date promises, no big teasers. But that's precisely what makes this moment so powerful. BTS doesn't sell dreams. They invited the ARMY to walk together, with all the imperfections and uncertainties. When Jimin clasped Jungkook's hand with a small smile, when Jin patted V's shoulder warmly, when RM closed the conversation with the phrase, "We'll be back on our own terms with you guys," it felt like BTS's entire journey was summed up in one night. Big comeback, but rooted in the heart. What makes Jungkook and V's statement so jarring is not the scale of the comeback they promised, but the way they interpreted the word big. Big does not mean pretentious, but honest. Great does not mean perfect, but sincere. BTS OT7 didn't come back to prove anything to the world. They came back because they were ready, and because the ARMY always waited with an open heart. Weverse Live December 21st, 2025 is not just an announcement. It's a two-way confession of love between the 7 men who grew up together and the millions of soldiers who survived with them. And in the midst of it all, Jungkook and V's voices are a sign that BTS's next comeback will not only be heard, but felt. Because when BTS finally returns as OT7, the world not only welcomes a legendary group, the world welcomed the unfinished story. The genie, with its characteristic warm aura, brings balance. The joke is present, but this time it feels more meaningful. He talked about what it was like to return to the position as a member of BTS, not just as an individual who has completed a state task, but as part of a dream that was delayed. There was pride in his voice, as well as gratitude. "We go back not to repeat the past," he said, "but to continue the story." Suga spoke in a low tone, typical of him. Yet each sentence feels like a gentle blow to the chest. He called this comeback a mission, not just an album or a project. A word that left the army speechless. Mission means there is a great purpose, there is meaning, there is risk. He admitted that the hiatus made them rethink about the music, about the message, about whether BTS is still needed in a changing world. And the answer, Suga said, they found from the army. JHope, with his positive energy, brought light into the live. But this time, his optimism was more mature. He talks about hope, about how they want this comeback to be a source of strength, not just for the fans, but also for themselves. "We want to come back honestly," he said, "not to meet expectations, but to share." RM, the leader, became the emotional anchor of the evening. His words were neatly arranged, but felt full of emotion. He talked about the pressure of being BTS, about the fear of losing relevance, and about the courage to return as OT7 in a completely different era. "We don't promise perfection," he said. "We promise honesty." And that's where ARMY creeps in, because BTS is always strongest when they're honest. Jimin, with his soft voice, revealed the most fragile side. He admitted that the hiatus made him often ask himself if he still deserved to be on the big stage of BTS. But seeing the other 6 members sitting beside him that night, that doubt slowly faded away. "As long as we're together," she said quietly, "I feel like I'm home." That sentence made many soldiers unable to hold back tears. V, in his unique way, speaks of change. About how he sees BTS now not just as a group, but as a family that has grown with wounds and dreams. He didn't say much, but his expression spoke louder. His gaze toward the other members was full of meaning, as if to say that whatever was coming, they were ready to face it together. As the talks began to lead to a comeback mission, the mood turned more serious. They don't divulge technical details. There is no exact date, no album title. But that's exactly where the power is. They talk about concepts born of life experience, about music that is no longer pursued for the sake of charts alone, but for the sake of resonance. About the desire to create works that can accompany people who are surviving, like the army accompanied them all this time. Army creeps not because of a big surprise, but because of sincerity. Because for the first time, BTS's comeback feels not as an industry obligation, but rather as a call to heart. A collective decision of 7 people who choose to come back to stand together, despite knowing the burden they will have to carry again. Weverse Live It ended without a dramatic breakup. No excessive promises. Just a thank you, a little smile, and a promise to see you again. But the impact feels incredible. Social media exploded. The timeline is filled with tears, relief, and one sentence that keeps repeating. OT7 is home. That night, ARMY didn't just watch BTS return. They are witnessing a growth process. They see 7 humans who have changed, but choose to stay together. And that's where BTS's comeback mission begins. Not as legends looking to repeat the glory, but as artists looking to get back to talking heart to heart. December 21st, 2025 will always be remembered not as the day of BTS's comeback, but as the night when BTS chose to return, with ARMY, in the most honest and humane way possible.